Hi guys, Mosk here, and today, something a little bit different, I'm going to be trying Dungeons & Dragons. Now, ever since I was a kid, I used to read through like the D&D and World of Darkness manuals and sort of like dream of playing, but I never had the opportunity, and to be honest, I was always a bit embarrassed to. I mean, I know I'm a total nerd, but you know, I've got to have some standards, or so I thought. So I recently got the itch to finally give it a try, realising I'd regret it if I never did. So I've banded together a group of my friends, and we're going to give it a go. So this video series is largely just to help keep everyone on the same page, act as a sort of summary notes for our group, and also help us look back on the story in future. And who knows, maybe some of the other people who still watch my YouTube channel will find it interesting. So without further ado, I'll set the scene and give a summary of our first session. So we are playing a campaign called Frozen Sick, which is a free beginner adventure from the Wildemount setting, which we're playing together using Roll20 because our group is scattered around all over the place around the country. The story takes place on the planet of Exandria, a fairly standard fantasy world analogue. As I understand it, gods found this planet, made peoples on the planet, former inhabitants of the planet, some sort of elementals, like elemental titans, didn't like that. They had a big war. Some of the gods changed sides and were evil gods. There was a big battle, lots of destruction, big calamity. Elemental titans defeated. Good gods and their forces beat the bad gods and their forces. But then all the gods had to lock themselves away in some definitely not sexy magical party dimension, leaving the world in ruins and a more long-distance relationship for clerics and their deities. And the events we will cover in this story take place about 500 years after this great calamity, in which the surviving peoples of the world have rebuilt and started to move towards their own destinies. Our story takes place on this continent called Wildemount, which, presuming, looks a bit more like this. So there's a Dwendalian Empire in the middle, some sort of like exotic Italian-y based people along this menagerie coast, and then basically not Mordor, with lots of dark elves and goblins and stuff in over these mountains over here. And then we have these wild northlands, which are largely inhabited by dwarves and elves, and some criminals, and this magical cursed wood.
Our story takes place in the northern region of...
Wait! Childhood nostalgia is not the time for you. We're in a different world now. Our story begins in the greying wildlands, the northmost region of Wildemount, a land of cursed forests, desolate alpine mountain ranges, and some sort of weird snowy sand desert that seems to be the result of some kind of magical fallout from the big nasty battle of the gods. And tonight, a group of above-averagely attractive strangers will meet in Palebank Village, this like frontier settlement in the foothills of the Flocket Alps, on the very, on the northern shore of the greying wildlands. Palebank is a subsidiary settlement of the region's capital of Uthadurn, located here in the middle of these mountains. Uthadurn is like a city of dwarves and elves that formed when I think the elves in this place did some silly things and had to leave, and Palebank is sort of like a little foothold into the Crystal Sands tundra that provides Uthadurn with, I guess, fishing and furs and stuff like that maybe the people in the mountains can't get so easily. In the past couple of months, a strange blight has been affecting the people of Palebank, and tonight fate brings together an unlikely group of people in this large central tavern called the Jolly Dwarf. The curtain draws back and we meet Irina Glenlar Venfarren, a high elf, redhead, dressed in fine and expensive clothes, but which have nevertheless seen better days and show a fair amount of wear from many months on the road. She's keeping to herself, drinking her drink quietly at the least busy end of the bar. The tavern is fairly boisterous tonight. It's busy but not rammed. Most of the patrons are elves and dwarves, labourers of the local industries, mostly from the docks. The door opens and two strangers enter. The first, a burly young dwarf, and the second, a rather underdressed tiefling marked by many tattoos and not a few scars. They approached the bar and unwittingly bought a couple of rather expensive ales, and the rather extroverted tiefling tried to strike up a conversation with the initially frosty Irina, introducing herself in a thick Russian accent as Zarissa and her companion as Vlad. Ignoring hints from Irina that she would rather be left alone, Zarissa and Vlad banter in good spirits, mentioning that they met on the road recently and joke about their recent escapades, which may have involved attack by trolls, but it's hard to know if they're joking. Unable to avoid being drawn into the conversation, Irina revealed that she had been in town for about a week and is kept mostly to herself. The door opens once more, and a dwarf with the look of a warrior about him enters. He goes to sit at one of the free tables in the tavern and orders a berry wine, a local brew concocted from the fermented local berries that tastes a bit like a dirty pint with a generous amount of red wine, and is the cheap stuff that most people are drinking. This newcomer also catches Zarissa's eye, and she inserts herself into his life by going over, striking up a conversation, and inviting him to go join the rest of the group at the bar. The dwarf introduces himself as Romand Hammergrace, and agrees to join Zarissa, intrigued by Vlad and how young Zarissa claims he is. Whilst at the bar, Romand chastises the barkeeper for his treatment of his staff, particularly a young elf girl named Gertrude, and conversing further with the barkeep, who was called Arl Bortok, the group learn of a local dwarf called Ergen Wenth and his strange fate, apparently frozen to solid ice, despite being wrapped up inside a warm cabin. Romand reveals that he's Ergen's cousin and has travelled to pay his respects to find out what happened. The group eventually notice a scuffle starting across the tavern, and Romand leads the way to intercede. They find a tabaxi being harassed by a group of elf dock labourers. When Romand and Irina intervene, the leader of the ruffians, an elf called Tomen Aruap, threatens them. Irina hot-headedly draws her sword, as there seems to be something about elves that has her on edge, and in the confusion, Romand floors Tomen with a perfect uppercut. The elf goons move in to attack, but are stopped in their tracks by the lightning reflexes and heavy blows of Zarissa and Irina. With this impressive display, where essentially 3 elves have been downed before the fight's even really started, Romand is quickly able to defuse the situation and intimidate the elves into standing down. Vlad buys everyone around, and Romand uses lay on hands to heal a broken jaw, and they all take a table together. The confident and rather surprised Tabaxi introduces himself as Klaus. He's a lynx-like Tabaxi from one of the nomadic tribes that travel the Crystal Sands tundra, and speaks with a stereotypical feline drawl. Klaus explains that he has spent the season working for an outfit on the docks headed by the Aruap family, but has recently been laid off as a result of bad blood with Tomen, who continues to harass him, and maybe some involvement with smuggling. The humiliated elves excuse themselves and take the unconscious Tomen with them, and Klaus tells the group he will likely leave town soon, but will attend Ergen Wentz's funeral the next day, before he goes. The Tabaxi explained that he lost an underground cage fight with Ergen, the winnings from which Ergen used to fund his expedition, and he wishes to pay his respects to the powerful warrior. The group decided to retire for the night, with promises to meet again at the funeral. Irina, Vlad, and Zarissa take private rooms in the Jolly Dwarf. Klaus returns to his lodgings, and Romand goes to stay with the remaining members of the Wenth clan. But Vlad basically got lumbered with the bill for the entire evening, and has spent about the gold. And that's where we ended session 1. Honestly, I'm not sure what we were expecting from this first session. Only my friends playing the dwarves have played D&D before, and then I think they've only played 1 campaign. But I don't think any of us were expecting to have as much fun as we ended up having. And yeah, this was a real blast. MVP was definitely my friend playing Zarissa, and I think we might have discovered a latent acting talent. And we're all looking forward to doing it again, so yeah, catch you on the next one.